All right, good afternoon, everyone. If you would, let's just do a quick audio and slide check here. If you can hear me, you see the slide that I've got up, just type a Y in the question box there, and we'll get started shortly. All right, looks good, looks good, looks good. All right, fantastic. All right, be back in just about 20 seconds. All right, I think we're all set. Again, welcome everyone to this presentation hosted by FFR Trading. My name is John Madison. I'm the senior strategist here at FFR Trading, and I'll be your host for this special webinar featuring Wendy Kirkland. Wendy will come on in just a moment. Feel free to post questions during the presentation, but we will also have a Q&A session when Wendy is finished with her part of the presentation. All right, you should see the risk disclosure slide here. You're all aware trading and investing is risky business, right? That's why FFR exists, because most people fail trying to do this themselves. That's why we pair you up with a proven trader with a proven track record and diversify you among them to help mitigate that risk. All right, here are a few questions for you to consider before we get started here, and ask yourself, I appreciate and respect the fact that each one of you has taken the time out of your day to be here at this webinar. But it also tells me something. It tells me that maybe there's something in your financial world that isn't quite going according to plan, right? Would you agree? You wouldn't come spend the hour here if everything was perfect in your financial world, right? Whatever the case is, we want to give you as much value for your time that we can, and hopefully provide a solution for you to consider that may help you get back on track to reach those financial goals. All right, some of the things that we're going to cover today. We'll talk about who we are at FFR Trading, what our role is here. I'll introduce you to Wendy, obviously. We'll do the Q&A session when Wendy's finished with her portion of the presentation. We'll review the trade academics of the Gemini Trades service and all the what we call the learn and earn educational material that comes with the program. So first, let's talk about who we are at FFR Trading and what is our role here. Well, we are a due diligence firm, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that we've been evaluating traders and their strategies for over 15 years, right? To find veteran traders with proven track records. So we sift through the thousands of strategies out there to bring you the best of the best, right? How do we do that? Well, each trader and strategy has to go through our 8-step certification process before that trader is allowed to provide their services to our clients here at FFR Trading. Now, some of those steps include a thorough interview process where we get the rules for the strategy. The traders have to have at least 15 years of actual trading experience. We get a back test of the strategy and the trader's actual brokerage statements, right? And if they can get through all that, the final step is we run that strategy on a live account to make sure that the trades are executed properly and it performs as anticipated. It's a pretty thorough process. I think you guys would all agree. All right, let's talk about Wendy Kirkland. Wendy is one of the few traders that we offer that doesn't have an institutional background. She became an options trader really out of necessity after her family lost their successful gift shop business in a flood back in 2004. She was introduced to options and spent countless hours developing strategies that allowed her to have huge success over the years. And many of her students, the ones that I've spoken to over the last few years, love her down-to-earth approach to teaching and the visual picture that her strategies present that make things much easier to understand. In this presentation, Wendy will be taking you inside her Gemini trade program and how the Gemini protocol identifies consistent winning trades. So if you would all welcome Wendy Kirkland. Wendy, I'll get ready to switch over to you. And once Wendy is done, oops, hold on, I want to make her the presenter is what we want. There we go. All right, coming over to you, Wendy. Wendy, once Wendy is done, I'll come back. We'll have our Q&A session with Wendy. We'll cover everything that comes with her Gemini program, including the signal service and the educational material and support that comes with the service. All right, Wendy, if you're ready, I think I see your presentation up. I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Let me go ahead and get my screen going there and get this smaller. For those of you who don't know me, I am Wendy Kirkland. I live in Marshall, North Carolina, which is just north a little bit of Asheville, North Carolina. And as John was saying, I have not always been a trader. And so today I thought maybe I would share a little bit more of my story than what I normally go through. And get up here and there we go. So I'm going to explain who I am and how I did come to trading. And it isn't the normal. I've been trading for a while and I get lots of letters from people. And I want to share this information so that you can see how it relates to me. That often I get letters that are from folks that are saying, I would like to learn how to trade options, but I'm not sure that I can do this, that anything that I try never works out for me. Sometimes I will say, if something's going to go wrong, it's always going to happen to me. I always make the wrong choices. No matter what I try, it never works out. I'm in the same financial position I was years ago. And so I'm writing emails to people and trying to respond to them and explain that if they have a negative attitude or outlook or expectations, seldom does that work out so that they will succeed. And the reason that I'm stating this and can sometimes email and try to explain is because I went through that. I went through a very, very hard life. I'm the oldest of 8 kids. Family home had cruelty in a sense, emotional, physical. In the end, I was abandoned and then ended up getting taken back, kind of, you would say. It was a rough childhood. And I escaped at 18, went off and got married to my husband, Jack. Within a few months, I was pregnant, and he joined the Air Force, and this was during Vietnam. And so maybe when I was about 25, I realized that I did not have to let my past define who I am, that I had a choice and I could create my own life through my own thoughts. And I did that, and it totally changed everything. And so because of these negative letters that I often get, not too long ago, I wrote a book called Knowing is Seeing, and it's available on Amazon, and I'm not here pushing this book. But if you know anyone, or if you happen to be a person who has kind of a negative bias, this is something that may help you. What you know about yourself is what you end up seeing in your life. And that's kind of that. I just wanted to share because I rose above what should have just been a negative life that just continued on. And I am so happy. It is crazy that I can be this happy. You all know, and it was said that my husband and I had a gift shop. We had a gift shop in Biltmore Village, which is very close to the well-known Biltmore Estate. And he was a carver, and I did the painting. I was an artist, and this is what we sold in the shop, was lots of paintings and other wildlife things. I am still an artist, and I see things even in the charts that are pictures, and that is something we're going to talk about. The picture here that is on the right is what I do now. It's called needle felting, where you take raw wool and poke it with a long needle to create a picture. So this is the flood that happened, and our shop is the one that's right up there on the corner of the right. And there was a tropical storm, a dam that broke, and a large creek that had so many trees fallen down in it that water flooded the area, and we were out of business for months. And it just isn't supposed to flood in the mountains. It sounds crazy. And yet that is exactly what happened. And we had a kid in college, 2 others at home, and just no real way to sort it all out. We didn't have insurance because it doesn't flood in the mountains. And so I took the money that we had for an electric bill and used it to pay off, pay for the classes that I was going to take in option trading. And so it was, in a sense, life-changing. I realized that I could do this. And I won some and I lost some, and then I won some more. And what I ultimately learned during this process is what this Gemini program is all about, and that it's what I'm going to explain here in a few minutes. So after about 9 months of drying out and repairs and refurnishing and so on, the shop opened. And as crazy as it sounds, it was option trading that provided the funds to reopen. So here, this flood that was disastrous ended up being a miracle, and it was truly a blessing. And that is the way things are often in life. Sometimes we just do not know what is being presented. Might seem somehow negative, and yet it is a new opportunity that is going to open floodgates for us that is just absolutely amazing. Jack ran the shop for a couple more years, and I traded options in our cabin up on top of the mountain. Here's what it looks like. And so when you picture me and you think, oh, I work with Wendy and I do her trades and reading her books or whatever, picture me up here on top of the mountain in my little log cabin, and this is the view that I have. That it is a special, special place and makes me so, so happy. And I'm happy to share this information and pictures and all with you. So the option trading adventure that I took and started back all those years ago began with chart reading and learning how to read the charts, and I discovered a unique pattern. That reading the charts is often what kind of blows people away, and they think, oh geez, there's no way that I can learn to read a chart. You know, I don't have a financial background. I just, this is foreign material to me. I just don't get it. And yet it is really so easy. And I'm going to show you that today. That often I think that there's people that make it seem very, very complicated so that they can be the teacher and get the, paid for being the teacher. So let me get started here and show you this first indicator. I'm going to get my pen here and see if I can do this. All right. This indicator is called CCI, or Channel Commodity Index. And I'm going to explain very quickly how to use it. And the point that I'm trying to make is the fact that this is not like a 6 weeks course that you're going through to learn how to set up a chart and learn how to be able to use the indicators. We're just going to talk here for a few minutes. So the Channel Commodity Index talks about overbought and oversold. And I'm going to point before I go too much further that each one of these candles that you see here, either the black outlines or the red ones, each of these represents a week, 5 days. So here you can see this was down all 5 days. This one was down 5 days. This one was up. And there's other days where it was up and down, and you can see that by these long wicks that they have. So the Channel Commodity Index goes from overbought, that's these green, I call them fins, like shark fins that are up here. And then the brown ones are oversold. And so when you look at this, you can see this line is right here, is climbing up, and it's climbing up over the middle line. That's the 0 line. And the 0 line takes it from being bearish to bullish. And so it crosses up, and then it creates this fin. And then it's like all the people that were interested in buying have bought. And so at this point, they think, okay, well, I'm going to sell and take my profit. And then it starts dropping down and drops. And in this case, it dropped down below the 0 line. And it wasn't down very long, and then crossed back up and went back up again. So right in here, after these folks sold, there's some other people that said, ooh, now it's kind of a bargain. I think I'm going to buy some of this, and up it goes back again. What we're looking at is the Dow as a whole, but it doesn't matter what chart you're looking at. The action and what this indicator is saying is exactly the same. You could be looking at Home Depot or Tesla or whatever, and it would be giving the same information for that particular equity. So here we can see that it dropped down below this 0 line. And this time it really did go bearish. It stayed down, and it stayed down here for 8 months. This was the first of the year, and it was down until August, just the first part of this month. And that is this bearish cycle that went down. Now it actually is at this decision time of where it's going to cross back up and become bullish again. And we'll see some of that in a minute, but because it actually did cross up and over the last couple weeks. And then this week has pulled back just a little bit. So it didn't cross down below the 0 line again. It is still bullish, and you can see by this chart that it has risen for more weeks here than it has since way back last October. It rose a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there, 1 week right here. But this period right now has been the most bullish that it has been since last year. And so that's all I'm going to say about this. Part of it, and what I'm trying to show you, is that what I have said right now, just as throwing this all out, I'm going to click to another chart. And this is the Qs. This is the NASDAQ, overall NASDAQ. I have no doubt that you can look at this chart right now and be able to say, okay, this is bullish. It's had these fins up here, dropped a little bit, came and almost touched the 0 line, and then bounced back, rose again. You can look here and see how it rose, came down, finally, right here is where it crossed down below that zero line and became bearish, stayed in that area right here, almost came in, almost crossed over that zero line, and then headed back down. And so this is where we are right now in August, that it has crossed above the zero line, is still in bullish territory, but you can see that it has dropped these 2 weeks here. This is the current week we're in right here. Today was up, so this candle will look different than it looks now because each candle is 5 days. So what I've said, what you can now pick up on this chart, you now know more than probably maybe half the traders that are out there at the moment. It is not difficult. It is not hard. It just takes a matter of explaining it in a way that is understandable. And then if you want to go and read about the CCI and know how it's calculated and so on, that's fine. It'll just add to what you already know. So here's another chart. This is SPY. Same indicator, same CCI, can kind of see it did the same thing. Came down here, didn't quite touch, and then popped up again. Here it crossed down, back and forth. Now this time, look here, right here, it actually popped above the zero line, and that was during this 3-week period right here. And it crossed above and thought, we're not really ready to do this yet, and dropped right back down again. Stayed down for all of April, May, June, and then it started up in July, and here it crossed up in August. And so this upward move is stronger. It's now bullish, even though it had this little pullback. If it crosses back down again, that'll be another story. But right now, it could do this, and like I said, today was a little bit stronger. It is just testing and then start rising again and start going up. So I'm going to switch from charts that have where each candle represents a week, and I'm going to look at this one. This is these are charts that represent what happened for a day, and this goes back a couple days ago. This is August 5th. And so this is again the Dow. It went up here, it was negative on the day, went up, was 0, went back down again, back up. Here it was positive for those few candles, back down. Finally at the end of the day was up positive, up $76. The NASDAQ never did go positive. It rose. The green candles are saying that there was buying, then there was selling, then there was buying again, back and forth. And so unless you're a day trader and riding these waves up and down, and sitting in front of your computer the whole day, this chart shows you the day's activity, and yet it really makes it hard as far as trading, because each one of these candles is 15 minutes. And so patterns and things we're going to talk about later can be applied to any time frame chart. That CCI indicator can be applied to a 15-minute chart. It just would flow up and down much more quickly than it does on a chart that the candles represent a week. So this was the NASDAQ. This is the S&P. Came up here, was almost positive, dropped down, back and forth, and so on. So the point of this is these create pictures, and they show you movement. And so the weekly chart that we were looking at, where each candle is a week, shows you the long-term trends. When you get to a 15-minute chart, it's up and down, reflecting the activity of every 15 minutes. So that's hard to trade. And the other one, you would be in trades for one trade for weeks and weeks and weeks, and maybe months and months. And so We want something that's on the in-between. And so this chart, it happens to be the Qs, the NASDAQ chart. And this is a daily chart. Each of the candles represents a day. And so I have two charts here. And again, I want to tell you a little bit of a story, that there was another event that took place that I've mentioned here that became a blessing. That when I first started trading and first started setting up my charts, I had this particular chart. Where's that little black thing? There it is. Where I had the 80X average directional index, PPO, percentage price oscillator, on my chart. And I actually had the CCI, the one we looked at before, but because it would have squished this chart so much, I didn't put it on here at the moment. But I had these two indicators on my chart, and I had a long list, maybe 100 equities on a list that I kept on my charting service. And so that I could just scroll through 10 at a time and look at the charts and decide which ones I was interested. I go through and it's Clorox or Boeing or whatever I was looking at and decide if that looked like equity that I wanted to get into. And this one day, I'm not sure why or how it happened, all of those charts were deleted. Because I was new, it was like, oh, I can't believe this has happened. That is just terrible. And so I set up my chart again. And this is the chart, the one that's on the right. And I didn't realize it at first. I have the PPO and I have the ADX, but I didn't realize that I had reversed them. It doesn't really matter because they each give separate information. They are telling different things as you look at them. That the ADX is a strength indicator. When a line is rising, it is saying that there is strength going into the direction that is on top. And if it's green, that is bullish. So when it's rising, you know that there is strength going into the bullish line. When it's rising and the red line is on top, you know there is strength going into the bearish line. It's dropping. Here it was rising. So anyway, I had them both on this chart and didn't realize that I had reversed them in a sense until all of a sudden I started noticing a pattern. And this is a pattern that I call the squeeze pattern, or is the P3 pattern. And what I noticed was the two indicators, and they have, again, nothing to do with each other. They just are sharing information. But I noticed that every time the lines, I call it pinching, they pinched together. Every time that that happened on a chart, before too long, they would start spreading apart and price would rise. And so if I don't have to say much more to you than that for you to be able to look over here and say, well, it looks like they pinched together right there. And when it crossed up and over and they started spreading apart, price rose. Now this particular one didn't go on for very long. You can see the line cross back down again. And so that pattern ended. Right here, they pinched together again. It crossed up, and look at this rise that happened. And so I realized this, and I started looking at charts and realizing that these charts told me a story that, and maybe it's my artist background. I don't know. I'm seeing designs that are different than what a financial person is seeing that's all about the numbers. So this is when or how the Gemini patterns came about, the bullish and bearish patterns. We use a daily chart setup. It's an easy to read chart, indicators that create patterns, and it is the P3 pattern, overbought and oversold concept, and that is what it is all about. So again, at this point, with what you have seen, I have no doubt that you'll be able to start seeing those patterns yourself. So I'll just put this up for a second. And again, I'm sure that your eyes would pick up. There's one right here. The PPO crossed up. And again, it didn't stay up for very long. Got up here, flattened out for all that number of days. And then when the PPO crossed down here, it started dropping. So then there is another P3 right here. When the PPO crossed up it went. But we can look and say, look how long it took for this green line to cross right there. And once it did cross, that is when the real big move started. So I'm going to pause for just a minute. We're going to look at a couple more charts. We're going to talk a little bit more. But John, I'm just going to ask if you have folks have posted any questions or anything I need to address at this point.
So Wendy, James has a question, and it's probably leading into what you're going to talk about next. But once the squeeze happens, what is the entry? How do you gain your entry? As the first question.
For Gemini, I often do it. Excuse me. When the green line crosses the red on the ADX. There are a couple other things that I take into account, but as far as the pattern, that is, and I am going to talk more about that, but that pretty much is the signal for me. It depends a little bit where the cross happens, if it happens above the ADX or below the ADX, but that is it.
All right, and Merle asks, let me go back here. Look at a lot of questions coming in here. Hold on. Let's see. What EMAs do you recommend to use with the ADX?
With the ADX, on this particular chart is the 14, but I often use the 13, and the reason I use the 13 is I am all about Fibonacci numbers. It just is, to me, you've gathered that I am a positive person. And so to me, the Fibonacci numbers, it's like, I'm just going to be in alignment with, Fibonacci. It's seen in everything in nature has to do with the Fibonacci numbers, as far as leaves, and don't get me started on that. So anyway, I usually use 13.
All right, and we'll see if we can take one more and we'll get ready to move on. Let's see, John asks, I work full time. How can you do this when you cannot watch the movement daily? But this is based off a daily chart, correct? So
Right, it is. It is. And so that's part of the answer. Part of, we looked at that weekly chart where each candle represented 5 days. You certainly could use that, but you would probably be buying months and months out, 6 months out, and they would be very, very expensive. And if you were using like a 15-minute chart, like the ones we looked at there, you would have to be sitting in front of the computer the whole day, or as long as you had a trade open. So to me, the daily chart is a perfect kind of medium ground as far as that is concerned, that perhaps you look at the futures in the morning and you say, well, today's going to be a up day and that's going to support my trade. So I don't really have to be too concerned about it, and then you look at it again when you get home from work just to see what happened. When it gets, because I teach the P3 patterns, and that's kind of like a life cycle, you get to the point you say, okay, well, I can see that it's getting to the end of the life cycle. So I need to pay a little bit closer attention, where earlier in the patterns, you can just kind of glance at it and say, yeah, it's doing what I expected it to do, and then step aside for the day.
All right, fantastic. Now we do have more questions, and guys, we'll have a full Q&A when Wendy is done with her presentation, but I don't want to hold her up too much. So I'll keep track of your questions here, and we'll get to them when she's done. So Wendy, if you go ahead and continue.
Okay, and we're gonna just look at a couple more charts where I've put it kind of all together, and then I figured that y'all would have some questions, and so we'll focus some time on that. So let me flip to the next chart here. So this is the Qs, and again, just even at this point, you could probably see that there would have been probably the lines squeezing together. It's past the end of the chart. Here they were squeezing together, getting tight, 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 and then this is the area where it crossed up. Again, this is one of the patterns that got started. Again, you can see that it went up and then it went sideways. We had the green line cross up here, but when it crossed up, it didn't cross up and over the black line. And then the PPO crossed down. So this was just a short run up. This pattern did not play out or go through its full life cycle. It just got started, was born, was kind of like in the toddler stage and so on, and then ended. So here's another P3 right here. Here it crossed up. PPO, you can see that there's white space between the lines all the way for all of those months. At the very beginning, there was some shifting back and forth of the directional lines until the 16th of July. And then the green one kind of took over. And then right here, the DI lines have crossed down. And so that kind of is the end of this pattern. This is SPY. Again, very, very easy to pick out the long pattern. And so I want to point out here, and I don't know if it was on the previous chart. I'm so used to looking at charts all the time, I didn't pay any attention to whether there was this second ADX on or not. But you can see that there's an ADX down here at the bottom. There's the PPO in the middle and an ADX on top. And there was a point that I realized that, yes, this squeezes, these P3 squeezes that happen here are easy to pick out. But then I started wondering about, well, okay, what do the short patterns look like? That I thought that when I had my chart mishap and I used to have the ADX on the top, that I saw things a little differently. And so I decided that I was going to set up my chart where I had two ADXs on, and that maybe the charts would talk to me and show me the bullish patterns and then maybe a bearish pattern. And that is exactly what happened. So that it's different. Here is the lines are pinching together, and the I have to see where it is. There was a new P3.5 pattern right in here, again, the lines kind of pinching together, but they're more parallel instead of, it looks different. Here's another one. I marked it right there. They're kind of, I don't know if you think of railroad tracks or something. And so when it does this railroad track kind of, that's kind of what it looks like. And so again, they started telling me a story. And again, I could see the life cycle of the P3.5 pattern, when it was going to drop. That, oh goodness. When the price is dropping here, it creates a pattern just like the different, but a pattern of stages just like the P3 does. And so that is what the Gemini book and all goes through. I write it and it's readable in the same way. I don't necessarily write like a financial person. I try to explain it in terms that are going to be understood. And I figure that we're all just everyday people. And you'll notice that I also have the CCI up here so that, again, I can just very, very quickly look, and if I go to the most current time and sit and say, yes, this was when it was overbought. It just crossed down from the 100 line, and right now it is touching the 0 line. And if it does drop into this bullish territory, I can expect that this P3 pattern is ending and that maybe it's going to drop for a period of time. And so it is telling me its story. Like I said, I think of it as a life cycle, and it's talking to me and it's giving me facts that I can then use and apply to my trades and when I am going to enter and so on. So this one is Tesla. We've been looking at the indices, and so this is Tesla, and I think this is the last chart that I had on here. But again, you can see that the CCI is up here. You can see the overbought fin drop down here below the 0 line, created the fins down here. Tried several times to get up and over to be bullish, then had to come back down here again. This time it was a little bit stronger, but still wasn't able to stay. Drop down. And then finally, right in here, it became and went over the 0 line and stayed up here creating these overbought fins. And right here, right there, it has crossed down below the 0 line, and that is where it is starting to look like it's losing its strength and going to be dropping. And so this is a quick look. I can look at this quickly, and it supports what is happening down here as far as my P3 patterns. And again, it is an adult P3.5 that conceives the new P3 pattern. Then this P3 pattern goes through its stages and it conceives the P3.5 pattern, and then it goes through its life cycle. And so I have just done this so much and taught it so much and use it in my programs to trade that it has become what I know, what I'm known for. It can be seen on any time frame chart, and it goes through its life cycle stages. If it doesn't go through a life cycle, if it does something where there's a cross before it becomes an adult, then you know 100% what is going to happen after that. So it's just interesting, and this is what I teach people. So the Gemini program trades daily P3 and P3.5 patterns. I think of it as an earn while you learn program, because you are given a book that goes through all the training and so on. When you get the trades, you're able to look at the charts and say, oh, I see it. I see how this is playing out, and you are learning. It trades calls and puts, which is the up and down swings. Potential trade information and details are sent to you via email and text, and you can check it out and decide to trade or pass if it's just not right timing for you or whatever. You get the open, and then the close information is sent when the time is right to do the trade. And that pretty much covers what I had hoped to discuss. That now you know who I am. Not sure how you heard about me and my programs, but or how you discovered SNS, but it could be that it was just set up so that some desire that you expressed, and this is the answer. I don't know. I do my best to make the strategy and the trade information as easy and understandable as possible. And again, I think of the program as a earn while you learn, because that's my goal. My goal is for you to become a independent trader. All right, John, I think that is it for me. Did you have a couple more questions?
All right, great stuff, Wendy. I've got more than a couple of questions, so let me give you some here. Luis wants to know, how do you pick a strike price for the options?
That's a kind of a, I don't know if I can just answer with just one quick answer. A lot depends on what the overall market is doing and how long I think that I might be in a trade. I usually buy a little bit out of the money, you know, a strike or two out of the money. If things are more volatile, then I take other things into consideration. But usually it's a strike or two out of the money. It's at a point that I think that it is going to be able to be reached during the time period that I'm holding the trade.
All right, and let's see. Well, Brian asked pretty much the same question. Sangeeta wants to know, so if the green line is below the red line, you do not enter the trade.
I do not enter a call trade. I might enter a put trade because that is suggesting that price is dropping. And so I have to take into consideration the other things that are in the P3.5 pattern, because there is a life cycle for the P3.5. So there's times when the an equity has a big drop, and when that happens, that red line will be on the top.
All right, and I think Charles, along the same lines, what is your trigger to sell?
Usually it is when I see the life cycle ending, or if there is a breach of the pattern. See, I use it in regular kind of terms, and so here I'm talking about the birth of a pattern, and that it is born, and then it's an infant, and then it's a toddler, and there's actually a teenager stage. And a teenager stage is teenagers sometimes act out, and they do things that are contrary to what you expect to happen. And so sometimes during that teenage stage, instead of it just being this little blip that doesn't really destroy or change the pattern, it actually has a line crossed down, and that would be an exit for me. But knowing that there's these little teenage stages that sometimes happen, I'm watchful, and if it doesn't breach the pattern, then it's just one of those things. There was a little period where a few people took some profit, and then it goes right back up again. And so it's learning what the stages are, the life cycle stages, and so on. And when you're into the adult stage and been going in there for a while, you know that the pattern's going to end before too long. And so then you're watchful for that.
All right, excellent. And some of you guys are asking some great questions. When you won't have time to cover now, but I will tell you, like John, you had a question. If you could show one of your recent trades that made money and a losing trade. Absolutely, if you give us a call, and I'll provide the number later, but if you give us a call, we can go through the trade by trade, if you want to go through all the trades like for 2022. So you can see the wins, the losses. We provide all that for you, performance numbers and everything, not just of Gemini, but of all of our services as well. So great questions, but you probably want to call in so we can kind of go over that with you. Thomas, we'll get into your question in a bit. Let's see. Robert asked, why do you use the PPO rather than the MACD?
It's just what I started with, and truth be known, you can use either one. They're very, very similar. It would be difficult to tell the difference. It's just what I started with, and so it's just what I use.
And let's see, someone asked, where does the name of the patterns come from, P3 and P3.5?
I am trying to think. It was so long ago. It was one of my first books, and it was like percentage price oscillator, which was a PP, or maybe I guess there was a third P in there. And so it just became P3 for short, instead of saying the 3 long P words. Maybe it was percentage price program or something like that, 3 Ps, and just ended up calling it the P3 squeeze.
All right, gotcha. All right, guys, I'll take control back here. I'm going to show you a few more things because I think some of the things that I'm going to cover here will address a lot of the other questions here. Let me get this right here. All right, you guys should be able to see my screen again here. And all right, so just a reality check. Everyone's here for a reason. We talked earlier about the fact that, the fact that you're here says that everything may not be going according to plan, right? As far as your financial life goes anyway. Maybe you're a new trader, you're struggling, you're not profitable and you need help. Ask yourself, would this help? Would partnering with Wendy help you reach your goals? Maybe you have years of experience, but you've never achieved the kind of numbers that our traders have been able to achieve. Would partnering with a professional like Wendy help? Would it help to see how she's, has successfully been helping others like yourself reach their goals faster? Maybe you're trying to build a retirement for yourself, but you realize, getting 10% in a mutual fund, if you're 10 years from retirement, isn't going to cut it. Would getting a return of over 50 or 100% help? And for those that just don't have the time to do this, so some of the questions people are asking, I don't think I have the time to do this. Maybe you work full time or you're busy running your own business. Would it help to have Wendy's trade signals sent directly to the broker who would execute the trades in your account for you? Right? Would that help? Right. So as you think about that, let's go over everything that you get with Wendy's Gemini trade service. Again, Wendy talked about the learn and earn programs, and that's our goal here, is to bring you what we call a learn and earn program. Everything that comes with the service. So you get the direct alerts to your email or cell phone, right? So when Wendy takes a trade in her account, you get alerted and you can place that same trade in your own account. You also get the daily market and position recaps. So you always know where you stand, what new trades were open that day, what trades were closed, and whatever positions you're currently holding. You do get direct access to Wendy and her team. Any questions that you have regarding the markets, the methodology, they're there on a daily basis to help you. You get all the educational material that comes with the strategy. So like she said, she's going to send you her P3 book. There will be videos to go through, PDFs. You'll have access to her bi-weekly market outlook. So you'll have a username and password, log in, access her kind of bigger picture, what she's seeing in the markets, and a link to her chat room website. So you can get your questions answered, get support through the chat room. She does a live teaching session. Somebody asked about the lunch with Wendy. All right, that's on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays in the chat room at noon Eastern. Those sessions are recorded, so if you can't be available to see it live, you can watch the recording later. We do offer access to third-party registered brokers, and that's an option for those individuals, again, who don't have the time to do this themselves. And then you have access to us here at FFR Trading. Again, our role is to help you build a well-diversified portfolio of different traders who trade different strategies, different markets. So Wendy's one of the traders that we work with, but we have 6 different traders trading over 20 different strategies in all the different markets. So you have the opportunity to build a well-diversified portfolio of strategies, which is important, especially in the current market environment, right? We had a stock market crash earlier in the year, and the markets have recovered about 50% of that crash, but we're not out of the woods yet, right? Now, commodities were at 100-year lows when stocks were at all-time highs. So our clients who had exposure to the commodity markets over the last couple of years have done very well, while traders in the stock market, have struggled. Right, we've heard of several major hedge funds this year have closed shop. Right, so it hasn't been an easy time to navigate the markets, and you've probably seen that in your own accounts. We've got a Fed meeting that started today in Jackson Hole. Right, we're going to hear from the Fed Chair Powell tomorrow. And anytime the Fed speaks, it has the potential to move markets significantly. So the roller coaster ride isn't over yet. The point being is we're here to help you navigate these difficult waters. If you have a strategy now that is not currently performing, call us and we can help you get into something that is doing well under these current conditions. Remember, it's usually not a good idea to trade just one strategy, but rather multiple non-correlated strategies to help smooth out that equity curve over time. All right, let me go over the offer that we have for you. All right, so this offer includes all the course material we talked about, the classes, plus Wendy, for all the new students, is going to completely waive the $3,000 enrollment fee to Gemini. All right, you'll be responsible only for the annual dues being part of this exclusive group. Plus, we're going to diversify you instantly because we're going to give you a complimentary 6 months of her new Merit DIA program. That's the diamond where she trades the ETF for the Dow, right? And it's doing very well this year. This is only good until Monday, all right? So you've got to let us know by Monday. So we have to, basically talk with you, make sure this is a good fit. If you're a good fit for this program, you want to move forward, we'll help you diversify, all right, giving you that 6-month subscription to the DIA. We encourage you to call in. Let me put up the number here. Call in and take action by Monday and take advantage of this amazing offer, because you need to call us just to make sure it's a good fit. If Gemini isn't a good fit, we do have 20 other strategies we can look at that may be a better fit based on your needs. But you need to call us by Monday to get all the details, including the performance details of the programs, since their inception. These are the phone numbers to call, email if you prefer. If you're an existing student of Wendy's, right, and you're currently, have one of her programs, call in. Let's see, how you're doing. Let's look for ways to increase the performance that you're getting and get you back on track if you need be. We're here to help you, right? I know this, if you don't take any action, right, nothing changes. Nothing in your financial world is going to change unless you take that first step. All right, it could be the thing that changes your financial life for the better, but you won't know unless you call. All right, guys, if you have additional questions, we're run out of time here. We've gone just past our hour here. So give us a call. We can answer any questions that you have, go over the performance of these strategies, see if they're a good fit for you. Again, thanks for coming and participating. We look forward to speaking with you soon. Have a great rest of your trading week, everybody.